Hello everybody and welcome to today's video. I wanted to talk to you today about the narcissist and their false self. So let's jump in. So when the narcissist is a child and they go through trauma or this golden child situation, they get to a point or a place to where they have to choose, according to psychology anyway, they have to choose whether they want to get to a place where if vulnerability is something that's hurt them or for whatever reason, they don't want to experience vulnerability anymore because they found that that causes trouble in them, that causes them to be hurt. So what they do is they choose to kill the vulnerability in their life and to go into this fantasy. And this fantasy is a fantasy of rigid thinking. If you've been with a narcissist, you know that they're very rigid in their thinking. You can't really change their mind, and anything outside of what they think turns into some sort of them ghosting you, silent treatment, or rage. So in their false self that they've built this compelling, superior, charismatic, beautiful, and magnetically seductive view of themselves, and they're just a god or a goddess. And in this status, they have this as their false delusional fantasy. And then when they meet you and you come into their life, they have a false view of you. And their false view of you is very simplistic because you're getting into the reality of, well, not a reality, the fantasy of this childish type person, individual. So that's kind of, where it starts. And anytime that you are able to render them insignificant, or that gets them into a narcissistic mortification, which is a narcissist crisis, because what you're doing is you're taking them out of their delusions that they have in their false self that they have created, and they are being pulled back into reality. And when they're pulled into reality and found a truth in the reality, it causes them to lose all kinds of fuel and to doubt themselves. And this causes this mortification and crisis in their life. So this is what they've been protecting. What they're doing is they've been protecting themselves against reality their whole life, or since they made this decision, because reality is what hurt them. So they have this fixed view to where they're the only human, and everybody else around them, including you and their children, their family, whatever, they're just objects. They're objects of supply for them. And it's just a rigid, simplistic view of you when you're their love partner, especially. And it's always off. It's never correct. So, you're not simplistic. In fact, they are, but they're caught up in these delusions. And a lot of times when they want to devalue you, or they have an opinion of you, it's always wrong. But they'll like to say it in ways like, oh, you love to do this, or you're the type of person to do that. And when you're able to show them that that's not true, in some sort of, not really coming from you, but in an objective fashion, from, say, like source material or something, but when it's not really coming from you, then it's kind of objective, meaning, so it would be more factual that it's like impossible, but it's not really coming from you, because if it comes from you, it's kind of in the form of ego and ego fighting. And you can't fight with the narcissist and their ego, because they'll always win. But if it comes from that, but usually what they do next is they will attack the source of the information. And that's what they do. And usually what occurs if you do this, if you hit them correctly, and I'm not really necessarily suggesting that you do it, but I'm just kind of going over the facts of the pathology to some degree in a little bit of detail here, but it causes them to question their false self. It brings them back into reality, because whatever view they thought they had of you, or were a situation that, a lot of times they will say they know more than they do, or say they have degrees and they don't, college degrees or doctorates, whatever. And if if things like that come at them from an individual where they have objective information that shows they are not, the first thing they usually do is draw down with rage. But when you are with the narcissist, what happens, before they even come to you or you guys get into a relationship, they already are of the understanding that they are to draw you in only to discard you. And there's no other way that a narcissist's reality works. So if it's a true narcissist, then it's always going to be to be with you and to discard you. Okay? This is the whole preemptive goal. Always. Always. Okay? A lot of times, if you were to devalue them, say objectively, they will attack the source. If it was something, say, on paper, this is not something you really want to do, but to get you to understand a little bit about them, if you devalue them, you would devalue them with truth. And you couldn't fake this, because a lot of times they don't even listen to you. But where they would listen to you when you're devaluing them is in your somatic communication, meaning what they read best and have learned to read best is the way you move. And when you're legit serious and you're truthful, it shows in your body movements, and it shows in your tone of voice and the micro expressions on your face and stuff. So these are just ways that will hit them with this type of mortification, is when you do it genuinely. And if you were to say, like, I thought you were compelling and very intelligent, but, I see you're just a charlatan, or, type of liar, basically, or fake, like this type of stuff. And then if you devalued them like that, and you did it, say, genuinely, and then you discard them, and you got to do this with non-emotions. So it's kind of like you have already taken your emotions out of it, because they have to be meaningless to you, and you have to believe this. And when you do this type of stuff, or let's say if somebody else were to do that and you were to see it from far away, that's kind of more the way I'm kind of discussing this with you, because I don't want you to get in trouble with the narcissist. So I'm just discussing some matters. But if somebody was to discard them with non-emotions, what they really like is when you adore them, you love them to death, or you hate them to death. So if you're kind of nonchalant with it, you're just nothing, then that's what kills them. Because if they're hated or loved, they don't care, as long as it's one or the other, because they are significant in your life. They still have significance. You hate them, then at least they know you still have emotions for them. And you may fear them, or you may adore them, all these things. And so you defy the false self when you make them insignificant. See, the love and the adoration, the fawning, and then also the I hate yous, or I despise you, is what causes them to feel significant. So if you do it insignificantly, they're boring to you. They're insignificant. They don't mean anything. It doesn't mean anything to you anymore. It decreases their energy. Everything starts dying in them. And it mortifies them, because it brings them back into the reality that they're not who they think or say they are. So it pulls them out of this delusion. Pointing out their mistakes with no ego objectively. They were wrong, and you had objective proof of this. With them being hypervigilant, they're always assessing you to see what you're aware of. If you pay attention to the narcissist, especially when you're waking up, if you remember some of the faces or some of the concerned looks they would give you, they just didn't seem like it was humanity, or it was out of touch, out of ordinary, right? These are usually in times where you're waking up and you start to question them on things that they have lied to you about in the past, and you just believed them, or you just didn't really say anything about it. You just let it fly. They want you to accept all their lies, submit to their lies and back them up. And that's kind of what you do in the beginning, but toward the end, you're not doing that anymore. Usually you just get kind of tired of it. And when you also go for healing, in the sense of healing, a lot of times you were fine before you met them, but by the time this whole relationship ended, you were really looking for them to seek out their validation for everything before you could do something. After you did a project, you would Ask them what they thought. You usually never got a good answer. But the only time you'll get a good answer or approval is when, you did something and it's because the narcissist gave you the information or helped or led you to the success that you had around it. That's the only time, because they have to get something from everything. They're just negative reciprocity. I used to say they're like, if you give 100% or 200%, they'll give you 30%. I don't even know if they give you that. It's almost zero. And with this, they stop, when you stop thinking that you need their validation, when that type of stuff comes into your head, you got to kind of cast it down and cast it out, because that's kind of part of the problem that they have installed in you. And then the next type of thing that would really give them mortification or bring them back to this reality that they're in this delusion and it clicks them back in, would be when you cease to give them any supply. So whether you're with them or not, you just look at them insignificantly or boring, and you don't react at all to nothing good or bad. You don't really even, a lot of times, may not even respond to a lot of things. You just kind of, whatever, just you're doing your thing. And when you do that, it's an energy drainer, and it's causing them to doubt themselves and causes this mortification, because it brings them back into the reality of they're not awesome, great, and seductive and beautiful and needed. They're just not needed. The narcissist has this view, and a lot of things are built on that they need to be usually needed, or they have to be the center of your life. Everything's supposed to revolve around them in your life. Everything you do is supposed to revolve around them at the center. They're your God. And that's why you have a hard time, building a relationship with the Lord when you're with the narcissist. I say it's like almost like the power lines to heaven get cut for a time. And maybe not completely, but you're really putting them in this position of idolization, not idealization, idol, of being idolized, being an idol in your life. And the 10 Commandments, right? Thou shalt have no other gods before me, But this is real. And when you do things like this, put them in this position, this is part of why all of this bad reaping that you get. And sometimes, you wonder why, the narcissist, why aren't they getting their reaping of negative, Well, they're almost like this soulless portal. I mean, they're almost, when you get to a point to where you lose your innate self and your 9 gift fruits of the spirit, and your inside voice, they're almost just running around flinging, absorbing good negative to them, what is considered good negative energy, where people hate them and fear them, or good positive energy, adoration, admiration, fawning, and they're being worshipped or they're being feared. And this is what gives them the power and control that they need to subdue life. And that's what they do, because they are haters of everything living. And the next thing that you do that would give them this mortification is to go out and live your life, y'all. To not even give them an inch. To block them and just don't talk to them. There is no such thing as you being friends with a narcissist. It's impossible. So to do that is what they would consider or call BS. Okay. So that's kind of what happened. And when you get into, the whole mythology of it, the story of Narcissus, it's like, I was looking at it last night. It's like the narcissist ceased to exist. Narcissist. You get it? I don't know. Just kind of hit me last night. Some weird stuff like the narc ceases to exist. Narcissist. It's almost like encoded in the writing. I just made that up. But I was just looking at it and I was thinking about it. And they're really, what they do is they compartmentalize themselves to where there's nobody. They do it to themselves. And there are a lot of people that question whether they were just born this way. They're born with this belief that if they lie to everybody and get over on everybody, that it's going to be a successful situation for them. So it's interesting. I guess that could get into where you start talking about if you believe in the seed of the serpent. A lot of people would talk kind of ride the fence on that. Does the enemy have like a blow line or something. But nevertheless, that seems like it wouldn't really add up. So, yeah, getting on with your life. But that's a little bit of understanding of what will bring them down. But they always want to come in and basically come into your life to be with you, then to become you, meaning they'll devalue you for all the gifts that they thought were wonderful in you, all your talents and gifts, your fruits of the spirit, your swagger, the way you move, the way you talk to people. They found the beauty in that. They didn't have it. So they were energized in just being with you and then wanting to be beside you, and then also to now learn how to generate these tactics. I mean, that's the way they would look at it, like a tactic, because they just believe really when they meet you that you're faking. They don't really believe in anything genuine. That's part of their, you know, falsity as well. And so when they realize at some point that they can't, then it turns into envy and jealousy and then hate, and then they have to break you down and steal it from you. So they start nitpicking, and you start looking for their validation, and you start to absorb their negative energy, and you start to give them your good fuel that you've been cultivating. They take your good fuel, they dump all of their evil deed, their sinful fuel and thoughts that they have. It's like they purge into you and they absorb all of you. And then they discard you, devalue and discard you. And when they leave you, they don't just leave you, they try to break you down to a piece of trash. And a lot of times that's because they want you to be in the sunken place. They want you to destroy yourself. But if you're not going to destroy yourself, they want to also get all of the good fuel they can from you so they could go blast, and they could be very powerful out here. And they think that at that point that they have created all of this fuel for themselves and the way that they're feeling currently, but they've been stealing it from you. But they're delusional. So then you have nothing to give anymore because you're out of fuel. And so then they discard you. And then while they're out there, that stuff is getting worn off. Your fuel is not going to last forever on them because they're not generators, and they don't even have the ability to generate your fuel or anything of the like, because they don't even have the ability to have the fruits of the spirit. But while they're gone, you're so absorbed in the stuff they projected onto you that you accepted out of consent, covenants, and agreements, that now you're trying to burn that off and heal. But before you, and you're not going to be able to get anybody, and they know that. You're so beat up, so they know you're going to isolate yourself or nobody's going to want to be with you. You don't have any fruit because they took it all. And then when you start to regenerate, that's why they're always stalking. They want, if you're down, they love it because they caused it. If you're getting to where you're getting to a healing process, they got to come back. They got to siphon it again and then destroy you out worse. And each time you take them back. That's their idea of it. There's never a period in time where the narcissist believes that they're going to be with you forever. And if they are, they're just gaslighting themselves for a time in their delusion. But their whole reality, their whole life is a delusion. So if you can give me a like, subscription, and thumbs up, love you all till next time. Peace be out.